Hello everyone, this will be chapter 24 of The Second Life of the Guardian, written and read by Insect Overlord. This chapter is titled, Tiki Can't Trust Izuku Unsupervised, and has content warnings for scars, mentioned blood draws, and possibly disassociation. The visit to the hospital started out much better than Izuku hoped. It was only Izuku, his mom, and Eri because his dad had an emergency at work. Usually, Hizashi would never put his work above family, especially after an ordeal like Izuku and Eri went through, but Inko had insisted. It surprised Izuku how serious she sounded when she told Hizashi he needed to go to work. She had that same dark look in her eyes as she had after the Death Arms incident. It made Izuku shudder. They requested only female doctors and nurses, and the staff complied easily. Everyone was very patient with Eri, explaining each device and what it did before they used it. It certainly helped that they were in a children's hospital, with murals on the walls and colorful scrubs for all the staff, much different from the sterile medical wing of the compound. The first hiccup came when Izuku took off his hoodie to get his blood pressure checked. He insisted on going first to show Eri it was safe, and completely forgot about the bandage on his right arm over the two still fresh cuts. Whoops. That, coupled with the unbandaged, newly scarred left arm, nearly made his mother faint. "It's okay, Mom. I match Eri now," he tried to comfort her. If anything, this only made her look greener. Eri, at least, looked more reassured than Inko. She rolled up the sleeves of the shirt Izuku had lent her and looked between her own and Izuku's arms. "We match!" she exclaimed. "That's right, Eri." Izuku smiled. "You know what our scars mean?" She gazed up at his face with wonder and shook her eyes. "They mean we're super strong, and you're the strongest." Eri focused back down at her arms. "I'm the strongest," she repeated. Things took a turn for the worse when one of the doctors, an elderly lady who told them to call her Chio, brought in the supplies for a blood draw. She was trying to explain the device in the least scary way possible. Izuku would give her that. But the moment Eri saw the needle and heard the word blood, she freaked out. Now, most 3-year-olds would scream and cry when they were upset, but Eri wasn't most children. She sat on the exam table beside Izuku, trembling and staring at the needle with a faraway look. Izuku reached out to comfort her, but pulled back when he noticed her horn glowing. She had wound back Izuku into Marinette not 12 hours before. How did she have enough energy left to use her quirk again? The doctor didn't seem to catch the memo and placed a hand on Eri's shoulder, after hiding the supplies from sight. "Are you all right, dearie?" she asked. As soon as Chio's hand touched Eri, there was a burst of light and the doctor stumbled back. Eri slumped against Izuku, exhausted but not quite unconscious. When the light faded, Chio looked down at her hands and blinked for a second. "My, I feel 10 years younger!" she exclaimed. Izuku was right then. Eri didn't have much juice left. Chio could very easily have been turned back into a baby. Instead of being scared or upset, Chio just smiled at the small child. "Wow, Eri-chan, that's an amazing quirk you've got there. Ever think about being a doctor when you grow up?" she suggested. Eri's eyes widened. "That's right, Eri," Izuku added. "Your quirk is awesome. You can save a lot of people with it once you learn how to use it." Eri looked between a slightly younger Chio and Izuku a few times before settling on Chio. "You're not mad?" she asked quietly. "I hurt you. I'm a bad girl." "Do I look hurt to you?" Chio raised an eyebrow, then held up one arm like she was showing her muscles. "I feel better than ever. You didn't hurt me, Eri-chan." Eri watched Chio for a moment, waiting for her to crumple over in pain or disappear. When she didn't, Eri frowned. "Oh, is that why you want my blood? Overhaul wants my blood to cure people too, so they won't be bad. Like me." Chio grimaced. "You're not bad, Eri-chan. Overhaul was the bad one, and I'm not going to use your blood to cure anyone, just to help you, okay?" Eri just nodded and held out her hand. She was still trembling, and Izuku could tell she didn't believe her or want to do this. She probably felt like she didn't have a choice, and that wasn't her fault. It's not like she was ever given a choice before. Izuku wanted to explain to her that she had choices now, that she could say no when she didn't want something, but that conversation would have to wait for another time. Izuku felt bad, but right now they needed her blood to make sure she was healthy. She couldn't say no. He wanted her to learn to practice autonomy, but at this moment, her physical well-being came first. After that, the rest of the appointment went much more smoothly. They were both given a clean bill of health, outside of their blood results, which would take a few weeks to come in. Even still, the doctors were hopeful. To the surprise of no one, Eri was not caught up on her vaccines. They weren't an immediate priority, so Izuku's mom opted to make an appointment for them in a few months, rather than drag their visit out further. Back at the apartment, Inko set up the futon Katsuki used to use when they had sleepovers in Izuku's room for Eri. They decided it would be best for them to stay together, at least for the first few nights. Eri was still a toddler, so it wasn't strange for her to share a room with her older sibling. Izuku watched from his bed as her breathing evened out, then turned to lay on his back and stare at the ceiling. The past few days had been hectic, to say the least, and he was exhausted. Still, he didn't know if he would be able to sleep. As much as he was used to pain, thanks to his last life as a superhero, and creeps, thanks to his last life as a female-presenting teenager, it was still hard. He didn't think anyone could truly get used to that sort of thing. As his mind refused to grant him the sweet release of sleep, and instead recounted the events of the compound, a faint pink glow appeared on his bedpost. He turned his head to see his only source of support during the worst years of his past life. "Bug, I missed you while I was in Argentina," Tiki cried out. Izuku quickly sat up and scooped her up. "Shh," he shushed, then pointed at his sister's sleeping form. The tiny ladybug turned in his hand to see the lump of blankets, then flew up to Izuku's face. "I leave you alone for 3 days, and you pick up an entire human?" she whisper-yelled. "Honestly, you cannot be trusted unsupervised," says the one who gave superpowers to all of mankind because she was bored. Izuku sighed. "Tiki, this is my sister, Eri. I rescued her after I was kidnapped. Honestly, I thought Kalki would have told you, seeing as he's the one who got us out." Tiki landed back on Izuku's hand and ran a tiny hand down her face, as much as a bug could, anyway. "Kalki refuses to talk to me since I created artificial sugar substitutes. I wanted people who couldn't have it to be able to taste sweetness. What about that doesn't he get?" "Wait, did you say kidnapped?" Her voice went up an octave at the end. Izuku settled back into his bed and set Tiki on his knee. "Yeah, but it was just for a few days. I'm fine," he reassured. "Eri, though..." He cut himself off and looked away. Tiki placed an appendage on Izuku's finger. "Bug, why didn't you call on me? I would have come." She sounded hurt. Izuku hated it when she sounded like that. "It's not your fault. I thought I could handle it, and I did call for help in the end. Kalki got us out, remember?" He tried to comfort her. It wasn't a lie, but it also wasn't the full truth. The most accurate statement would be that Izuku forgot. He forgot he could call on Tiki. He forgot she would always come to help him. He was so used to being the only hero, to doing everything alone, to being the one responsible for keeping the world safe. It was hard to leave that mindset behind. Tiki looked away from his face. "Still, I'm sorry I wasn't there," she apologized. Izuku was about to reassure her that it wasn't her fault again, that she couldn't have known if Izuku didn't say anything, but she continued before he could get the words out. Will you tell me what happened?" she asked gently. She didn't need to be so careful about it. Sure, the situation might have been traumatic, and he would definitely be having a few nightmares, but he had been through worse. So, Izuku told her. He told her about how he was kidnapped on the beach, about Overhaul and his ideals, about what he said and did. Izuku told her everything. "And you want to know the worst part?" he ranted quietly, cautious of waking his sister. "He was using yours and Plag's blessing to do it." Tiki, whose face had gotten darker the longer he spoke, growled out, "What?" Yeah, his quirk could both destroy and remake. It could have been useful if it belonged to anybody else. Tiki looked contemplative, well, as contemplated as a bug could, for a few seconds. Then she flew off his knee. Sorry to leave so soon, but Plag and I have some important god business to attend to. She disappeared with a flash of pink before Izuku could reply. This concludes Chapter 24 of The Second Life of the Guardian. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm catching up on recording the chapters I haven't yet right now, so they should be coming out one at a time for the next few days, the ones that I've written at least. All the chapters that I've released on AO3 as of when I'm recording this is what I have written, pretty much. That's it. I haven't been writing for the past few days because I've been distracted with other stuff. But once I get back into the groove, I should be posting every day, the Podfics, probably. Anyways, even if it's not every day, the next chapter should be up soon. So thank you so much for listening.